Hey everyone, buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into the world of Greek mythology. Yeah, we're talking gods and monsters and those epic tales you might remember from school, but trust me, we're about to make those stories come alive like never before.
What I find fascinating is that Greek mythology, it's more than just exciting stories. It gives us this amazing glimpse into how an entire culture saw the world. Their beliefs, their fears, even their values, it's all there.
It's like they took the big questions about life, the universe, everything, and spun them into these incredible stories.
Yeah.
And speaking of big questions, our source material takes us way back to the very beginning, like before the heroes we know. Even before Hercules, there were, well, other humans. But get this, they weren't all created equal.
Right. It's this concept of the ages of man. It's this idea that humanity, we go through these distinct eras, and it's not exactly a story of, constant progress.
Oh no, it's more like a wild roller coaster, right? And at the very top, we've got the Golden Age. So picture this. Humans hanging out with the gods, living it up in paradise, basically immortal. Pretty sweet deal if you ask me.
Oh, absolutely. The Golden Age. It represents this perfect harmony between gods and mortals, an ideal state of being.
But then hold on tight because it's all downhill from there. We're talking the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, each one a little less glamorous, a little more, shall we say, human.
Each age signifying a decline. You see this gradual separation between humanity and the gods. The world becomes more complex, more challenging.
And this brings us face to face with, well, the bottom of that roller coaster, the Iron Age. And guess who has the front row seats for that one?
The age we find ourselves in, even today, the Iron Age. It's marked by hardship, constant struggle, this need to toil.
So put yourself in the sandals of an ancient Greek for a second. You hear this story, right? You're living in what's basically the rough draft version of humanity. Makes you wonder, how did they handle that? Did they just throw in the toga? Or was there some strange comfort, knowing that maybe imperfection was just part of the deal?
It's a question that echoes through so many of their myths. It's this idea that even in a world that's flawed, even amidst hardship, there's still room for courage, for resilience, those glimmers of hope that make life well worth living.
Love that. It's not about, like, going back to some perfect golden age, but finding those golden moments right here, right now. But speaking of finding the extraordinary in the ordinary, we got to talk about someone who definitely knew how to shake things up. Zeus.
Zeus, the king of the gods, right? Wielder of thunderbolts, and let's face it, a bit of a lightning rod himself when it comes to drama.
That's one way to put it. I mean, here he is, the top god, supposed to be keeping everything in check. And it sounds like he was often the one causing the chaos. Like our source mentions this whole great flood incident. Apparently Zeus got so fed up with humanity, he basically hit, like, the cosmic reset button. Talk about a bad day.
It's a story that pops up in so many cultures, this idea of a flood that washes everything away. Really makes you think, what did the ancient Greeks believe about their gods? That they had the power to just wipe the slate clean, to unleash that kind of destruction.
Right. I mean, it's one thing to have power, but to actually use it like that makes you wonder just how bad did things have to get for Zeus to, unleash a flood of that magnitude. It really makes you think about that whole divine justice thing, like wiping out almost all of humanity because you're having a bad millennium. Seems a tad extreme, don't you think?
Definitely raises questions, doesn't it? About the nature of power, human and divine. And, it speaks to this fear of the unknown, these forces beyond our control that can just reshape the world in an instant.
Which, let's be real, is still a relevant fear. Even if we're not worried about Zeus, hurling thunderbolts at us.
Oh, absolutely. But speaking of challenging authority, our source takes us from one, shall we say, powerful figure to another. One who dared to question that order that Zeus was trying so hard to maintain.
Prometheus.
Prometheus, right, the original rebel. Stealing fire from the gods, that takes guts. But it makes you wonder, what was his real goal? Was it just about giving us, humans a source of light and warmth, or was there something more to it?
That's an interesting point, because the symbolism of fire here, it's huge. It's not just about the practical stuff, right? Fire, it represents knowledge, progress, this ability we have to shape the world around us. So Prometheus, he's giving humanity the tools to kind of forge their own path.
And that's what gets him in hot water, right? Zeus is not exactly thrilled about sharing that kind of power. Almost like he sees what humans could do, what they could become, and it scares him. And the punishment, well, it speaks volumes, doesn't it? Chained to a rock, an eagle coming back day after day to feast on his liver. It's brutal, right? But it's also an image of defiance. Prometheus, he's in agony, but he won't back down. He sticks to his beliefs.
Powerful stuff.
Mm.
And it kind of sets the stage for this ongoing struggle, humanity's desire for knowledge, for progress, and then those forces that would rather keep us in the dark.
Exactly. And we're still grappling with that tension, aren't we? Think about all the debates around technology today. Artificial intelligence, where do we draw the line? Are there some things we shouldn't mess with, even in the pursuit of knowledge?
It's like Prometheus handed us the match, and now, well, it's up to us what we do with it. But before we go too far down that existential rabbit hole, our source throws another curveball at us. This time it's Pandora and that whole box thing. Although I think it's technically a jar, right?
Pandora's jar, one of those stories that gets, simplified. Curiosity killed the cat. But there's so much more to it than that.
It seems like with Greek mythology, every time you pull back one layer, there's a whole new set of questions waiting. So let's unpack this one. We've got Pandora, the first woman, created by the gods. And she gets this jar. But it's not exactly full of goodies, is it?
Not quite. Think of all the bad stuff in the world. Disease, strife, jealousy, despair, all bottled up inside, a little gift from Zeus to humanity.
Talk about a passive-aggressive present.
Right. But here's the kicker. Amidst all that darkness, one thing remains in the jar. Hope.
Okay, now my brain is officially tied in knots. We've got all this evil let loose in the world, but hope is still trapped. What are we supposed to do with that? It's like hope is this, I don't know, forbidden fruit. We know it's there, but we can't quite grasp it.
Such a powerful metaphor. Is hope something that shields us from the darkness, or just a cruel reminder of what we can't have? It's a question that continues to resonate.
Right, and maybe there isn't one right answer. Maybe it's about, acknowledging the bad stuff, but still holding on to that little glimmer of hope, no matter how small.
Exactly, that resilience, that ability to find meaning even in the midst of suffering. It feels very, very Greek, very human.
It's like no matter how many times Zeus, throws a cosmic curveball at them, humanity just keeps bouncing back.
And that brings us back to our source material and its mention of Zeus's, well, let's just say colorful personal life.
Oh, yeah, about that. We can't really talk about Greek mythology without addressing the elfin-sized thunderbolt in the room. Zeus was notorious for his, shall we say, extracurricular activities.
To put it mildly, our source dives into a few examples, highlighting how these encounters weren't just about, divine infidelity. They often resulted in the birth of heroes, demigods, figures who shaped history.
Okay, so it's like the original baby mama drama, but with, way more gods and monsters.
Right. Take the story of Europa, for instance. Zeus becomes smitten with this Phoenician princess, right? And he decides the best course of action is to, transform himself into a bull and kidnap her.
Smooth move, Zeus.
Yeah.
Real smooth.
And this unconventional encounter, it leads to the birth of Minos, Rhadamanthys, and Sarpedon, all important figures in Greek myth. Minos, of course, he becomes the king of Crete. He's connected to that whole legend of the Minotaur.
See, it all ties together. It's like this giant, messy, tapestry. Fate, destiny, and Zeus's inability to stay faithful to Hera.
Quite right. And through these stories, these interconnected myths, the ancient Greeks explored their world, their history, their own humanity even.
So we've gone from the very beginning of humanity to floods, meddling gods, even a little divine dating drama. And it just strikes me how these myths, as wild as they are, they still speak to us today.
They do, don't they? Thousands of years old, these stories, but they still have something to say about who we are, the choices we make, the power of hope, even when the world feels, well, less than hopeful.
I think that's what makes this deep dive so amazing. It's not just about, learning the myths. It's about understanding what they tell us about ourselves, even now.
Precisely. They're a reflection of these timeless questions, right? The ones humans have always asked. Questions about power, justice, our place in the universe.
And on that note, I think we've given our listeners a lot to chew on today. What do you say we leave them with one final thought?
I love that. Let's leave them with this. If these myths are a reflection of ourselves, what would your own personal myth look like? What stories will you write with your own life?